Good afternoon. Welcome to another session of My First Job, the podcast. Today is a special session because we are celebrating Teachers' Day. We are celebrating the people who dispel the darkness from our lives. Guru, as it means, is the dispeller of darkness. And today we have three wonderful people who are going to join us. They're all experienced teachers and they teach children right from their early stages when they first enter school to middle school to high school. One of them teaches maths, a subject that a lot of us find hard or develop either a lifelong liking for or a lifelong fear of. But it's amazing how much of an effect teachers have on our lives. And today, we're talking to them about what it means to take up teaching as a career and then what it means to engage students in the classroom. Let me bring them on one by one simply because I want to spend that 5 seconds or 10 seconds telling you about the teacher and then bringing them on. So, first, we'll have Bhuvana Kannan, who's a Montessori trained educator, and she used to run her own Montessori school and headed the Chettinad Harishree Vidyalayam. So we'll be talking to her about what it means to get young children on their first ever journey out of the house and what it means. So let's welcome Bhuvana to the show. Hi, Bhuvana.
Hi.
Good to have you on the show and looking forward to hearing about your experiences.
My pleasure.
Next, we'll have Shobana Balaji, the maths teacher who's a facilitator for students from grade 10 to 12. She is obviously handling a tough assignment because maths is a subject which has a love-hate relationship among students. So we'll talk to her about what it means to be a math teacher and how life is teaching students in class. Hi,
Hi.
Shobana.
Hi.
Great to have you on the show and thank you for accepting.
Thank you.
Okay. Finally, we have Vidya Gururajan, who teaches a set of children in Pondicherry. The difference is that these children are in a rural school. So we'd like to get perspectives on what it means to have students who are not, who don't have the same, let's say, chances that children in the urban centers do. And what are the challenges that teachers out there have? Hi, Vidya. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Great to have you on the show. And I'll be asking these questions. I'll probably, call out your name and then you can answer. Or at a certain point, I'll ask a question which I think concerns all of you. Wonderful to have you on board. And okay, so why don't we start with, since we brought Bhuvana first, let me ask Vidya, what is a typical day in school like?
It's a complete
Yeah.
pack of enjoyment.
Okay. So is it action packed? Do you have to do how many classes do you take every day?
7 periods a day.
Okay. Okay. So you straight, I mean, one of the things is that, of course, teachers are a lot more engaged when it comes. Bhuvana, what about you? What is your typical teaching day like? Or what is it that you do? You consult now, right?
Yeah. So when I used to work, I was heading the junior campus at Chettinad Harishree Vidyalayam,
Okay.
and we had 10 Montessori environments. We call a
Okay.
classroom as an environment, and we
Right.
had 30 children in an environment with two teachers. And
Okay.
the typical Montessori day would start from 8:30 in the morning. So we don't have periods per se. The day would just move into children working with activities, and we'd have group activities and circle time. The PP1, that would be the LKG children, they would leave by 11:45, 12, while the PP2 and class 1 would stay back till 2:30. So
Okay.
typically a Montessori environment has a mixed age group. So that would mean LKG, UKG, and class one in the same classroom. So
Okay.
ours is not divided into periods, but into workspace. What are the children working on?
Working during that time. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Shobana, you get to see children when they are very experienced. They've already spent 10 years in school.
Yeah.
So it's a very different experience. It's they're almost adults because they're literally on that. So what's it like?
Uh, every day is challenging, and you also get to learn a lot every day. I work as a consultant now, so I'm there only for half a day in the school. So I deal only with class 11 and class 12 students. I take maths for
Okay.
them. So every day we argue with one another, and we also work together. Like arguments are basically on homework not done. What's the reason? We get into a debate, and it goes on. It goes. I mean, it just. I mean, it starts from a homework, and it goes. My book is not there. Somebody took it. It's at home, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then unlike the bonus Montessori environment, we have very less time, but we do some hands-on activity does happen very rarely, but not too much because the syllabus is large and the time period is very small. They all have to get ready for their entrance
11th and
exams
12th.
or
Yeah.
whatever they're planning to pursue after the
Yeah.
12th standard. So my math classes are very typical. We go in, do some work, we discuss how we're going to do this, and we have to plan when what gets done. So how ready they'll be for the next assessment.
Okay. Great. So Vidya, why don't you tell us about how you started? Oh, there seems to be a problem with Vidya's camera at the moment. So okay, Bruna, why don't you tell us about how you got into teaching?
Um, it's a very typical scenario. So with my children, I found this ease with either storytelling, singing rhymes, being with them. I could relate to it, and
Okay.
something within me felt very happy when I was with this age group. That
Okay.
typically 2.5 to 6, I could talk to them, relate to them, be with them. So something inside of me was always yearning, wanting to be with these children, wanting to more than teach, facilitate that learning for them. So it took me nearly 10 years after I got married to get into, after I had my second child. And typically we wait for them to go to full day school, and
Yes.
then we can also go.
Yeah.
So that is when I did my Montessori course, and it was like something within me just blossomed when I did the Montessori course, because I found myself nodding to everything Maria Montessori said, and I'm like, wow, wow. So my daughter would still say, my daughter is about 26 years now, and she'd say, I am your pre-Montessori child, while my son, who's 21, is my post-Montessori. So my learning happened between both of them. So that
Between the
is
two of
how
them.
the
Okay.
Montessori method fascinated me, and I wanted to be a Montessori teacher,
Right.
and that set me off into the path of teaching and being with
Teaching.
children of this age group. And
Okay.
uh, I wouldn't want to teach any other age group. I mean, these children fascinate me. I
Yeah.
learn from them each and
Right.
every day. I look in awe at their innocence, sometimes very wise comments also. So,
Right.
yes, that's how it was just with being with my children, feeling the connect, and doing the Montessori course that got me into teaching.
Great. So Vidya, we lost you for a couple of seconds out there, but how did you get interested in teaching?
Um, that was my childhood aim actually. When I was in 8th standard, I seen
Okay.
one of my teacher. I aspired to become a teacher, and
Okay.
but when I was in my 11th and 12th, as that age was a very big phrase behind engineering. So, like all my peers, I also tried very hard to get myself a seat in the Pondicherry Engineering College, shortly called as Tech, which is very reputed
Okay.
a dream like college for many. And I also tried very hard, and I got myself with a seat to do computer science and engineering. And strangely, in that panel room, I declined my admission and I came out and told my
Okay.
parents, no, I feel myself as an alien to this atmosphere. I don't want to be an engineer. And thanks to my parents, actually, they understood me and they told whatever gives you happiness, you go behind that. And that's how this
Okay.
happened. Then I joined in diploma course, diploma in teacher education, which is a 2 year course after HSC. Um,
Right.
and I started my DTA in diet. All over
Okay.
India, every district has one diet, and in
Okay.
that institute, I did my DTS Diploma in Teacher Education for a couple of years. And after that, when I was in my 19th year, I joined in a nearby private school right after my course has ended, and that's
Okay.
how it started.
That's how
It
it all
wasn't
began. Okay.
with my career.
But here you knew you wanted to be a teacher. So Shobna, you had told me briefly that you sort of took up teaching a little later. So why don't you take us through your story?
Okay. I was actually working as a media manager in an ad agency. After I got married and had my daughter, I
Okay.
decided I needed a break till she went to school. So actually, my daughter and me, both of us joined school together. So when we went for her admission, our principal in Chettinad Harishree Vidyalayam, before even she gave admission to my daughter, she said, "Will you join as a teacher, math teacher?" I was like, "Yeah, what about my daughter?" She said, she'll get admission in pre-primary, but you please join." She's one of the amazing
Okay.
principals I've had. And then actually, I've worked as a pre-primary one teacher, and then we had a teacher observation. She was not very happy with me there, and then she gave me a very honest feedback. And then I was in primary school. Then she said, "You talk very fast. This age group is not right for you." And then finally, I went to high school. So she said, "Now you're in high school. You got to do your BEd." So I did my BEd and then
You found your
yeah, right.
yeah. You found your slot.
Yes.
What was your maths teacher like? Do you remember? Do you remember your maths teacher?
Yeah, I remember my math teacher. Actually, her name was Vasanta ma'am. She was a
Okay.
chemistry major, but she
Okay.
used to tell all of us, "I'm a chemistry major, but I love math, so I'm going to teach you math." She was amazing. The dedication she had, and how she took interest in each and every one of us, very inspiring.
Okay. So I think some of these things are coming through that, like Bhuvana said, from her point of view, it was practical. And like Shobna also said, the child joins school, so it makes sense to be a teacher. Vidya, of course, decided that she wanted to be one, which is wonderful. So, is there something I asked Bhuvana briefly about this? Is it that women are a little more empathetic? And she said, no, they're more practical. But I'd just like each of you to answer that. Why is it that more women seem to get into teaching as opposed to men? Yeah. Anyone? Vidya, would you like to start?
Um,
Can
Actually,
you
I
hear me?
don't agree with this point because um, in the early days
Okay.
we had only male gurus when it was in
Oh, okay.
the Gurukulam period. We had only male
Okay.
gurus,
Okay.
and after
Okay.
a long period of time, um, since it has become more patriarchal, uh,
Okay.
the children are not attached with mothers. So after this revolution came into the school education, the children expect some motherly figure inside the school, inside the classroom. They are
School
very
as
much
well.
comfortable with a motherly figure. So they all expect a female in that place. So maybe many female are dragged into this, I guess.
Okay. So your experience has been that males used to dominate it, or there were more men, but it's only of late that more women have come in.
Yes.
What's your take, Shobna?
I somehow feel all this might be true, but a pay a teacher makes also makes a big difference.
Right.
because the UK school which we went to, there was a good ratio of 1:1 of men and women. So I mean, women are more empathetic to a child's needs, but I think most men are also. I think pay makes a big difference. If
Okay.
you pay them as good as any other leading industry, you'll definitely have more men. They would love to come and teach.
Teach as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Bhuvna, your take.
I completely agree with Shobana on that. And I think the teachers need to be paid better. And I have not seen men stepping into the pre primary classes. They're more with high school, maybe middle school. I think somewhere they're
Yeah,
terrified
very
of
true.
these
Very true.
young children. I may be wrong, but in my experience so far, I haven't found men to come into the pre primary or your early years education as of now. May that change in the
Okay.
future. But,
Okay.
and as Shobna says, I think it's mainly got to do with how we are paid.
Okay. That, yeah, that seems, but isn't this almost global in the sense that, yes, teaching as a profession is always seen as, as not one of the highly paid professions. Strangely enough, consultants and all of these people who seem to be able to demand more money get more money. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. Sometimes the value that people place on something which has an effect for life. I think one of the things that Shobna said when she had a great maths teacher, and that's the reason
Yeah.
why you get into the profession yourself,
Yeah.
because your teachers inspire you. And
Yeah.
so a job which really does inspire people throughout their lives should be valued and paid for higher. But okay, but that will take the debate, or it'll take the discussion in another direction altogether. But so let me ask you, Vidya, you're seeing more children come from a rural background versus the urban. What do you think those children are struggling with, or what is their mental attitude?
The main struggle for them is English. And in Pondicherry, we follow CBSE patterns for all the government primary schools. Nowhere in
Okay,
India is offering CBSE for all in government schools. All the
okay,
100% government primary schools here are in CBSE mode. Being with English as the main instructional medium, the rural children struggle a lot uh, to understand, to comprehend, and to answer back. So that is the main struggle we are facing here in rural
okay.
schools.
But in terms of their interest and in terms of what they're looking at, their career horizons, you don't think there is much of a difference.
Um, Maybe they are not explored to the best jobs yet.
Okay, okay,
Um,
okay,
the rural, as far as primary schools are concerned, we are dealing with the children in the age group of 10, up to 10. So they don't have so much of exposure as the urban children does. Um, so maybe it's unfortunate, but uh, it is so.
yeah, yeah. That is the truth. I mean, there are so many things. So, Bhuvana, what is your take on this? How students are responding, reacting? What have you felt when parents, play a big role and they are available for counsel, as opposed to, let's say, uh, the smaller cities and tier two cities and the rural areas where children or their parents may not have the same exposure? Do you think it's the balance is tilted in favor of
Venu,
urban?
you know what is happening? It's the complete opposite. Shobna will also agree with me. There's too much of involvement of parents in
Okay.
our kind of right. They,
Okay.
because I wouldn't blame them in this age
Yeah.
of information explosion. They are bombarded on all sides with this information. I am so
Right.
grateful that I am not a 2.5 or a 3-year-old's parent right now in
Today.
2023. I
Yeah.
had it like, for me, my mother's there, my grandmother's there. What they tell me, I'm okay with it. And when my child goes to school, I have my peer group, I have the mothers in that group, we will discuss. That is all. There was no
Right.
internet, there was no people telling you do this, do that. And the
Right.
pressure these young parents
Right.
put on themselves, they have too much of time. I mean, even if they are professionals,
Crazy.
the over involvement also doesn't benefit the child. So we need a right balance where I need to let go, let my child be, and involvement. So I wouldn't call this over involvement also as beneficial as we are seeing in urban schools, children, in the schools that Shobna and I have worked with also, and
Right.
especially when it's their first child and the
Right.
child is just entering into school. The worry and the some parents would even start planning what they would do after 11th and 12th. I want my child to get into IIT. You've just stepped into PP1. So yeah, I mean, we faced a different kind of
Yeah.
issue.
Pressure. Yeah. Yeah. So, Shobna, that's exactly your this thing take as well. I mean, I was hoping to keep the parents part of it a little later, but you preempted me. And I think that's a very, very strong point about how education is managed in our country today. Yeah. So, Shobna, what has your this thing experience been about, the way students are involved and what their concerns are?
Okay, I would like to say something about what you asked Vidya about a rural school. I work with
Right.
an NGO. Of course, we went to school here in Chennai. It's not a rural environment, but it's a government school with all the students speaking in Tamil, the local language. They had the same problem. They couldn't comprehend English. So our aim, or the aim of our NGO, was to make sure they're able to just converse in English. We didn't want them to get into any grammar or writing or something. So they have better opportunities. They're able to communicate with many more people, right? But there's one thing I observed: their skills and everything else was amazing. They were on par with students in
Anyone. Yeah.
any
Kids are the
urban
kids. Yeah.
environment. Yeah, they're
Right.
amazing. They're so
Right.
bright, so interested. The
Right.
only thing was their lack of the English language skills.
Communication in the
So
language.
yeah, that's it. So, but otherwise, they were doing amazingly well. That is really surprising.
And
And
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
no, regarding this parents' involvement with the child's development, I'm very lucky. By 11th and 12th, a good distance is created. So, uh, like one of my facilitators said,
This time
um,
the students themselves are creating the distance.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like simple addition or small things in physics or EVS, they'll be able to answer. But the 11th
Yeah.
and 12th grade, it's a different ball game altogether. If you're not in touch with those core subjects, like my teacher was saying, I'll not have any problem in a physics paper from the parent, because it's very tough for them to understand what's happening in the paper. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
with the older kids, the kids are very independent. The children are very independent. They know
Yeah.
what they want
Yeah.
most of the time. So the
Right.
involvement of the parent is that much less.
That much less as opposed to. And I think the point you made, I've seen it from the when we entered college. And I'd come in from an English medium, and there was these kids who came from a Kannada medium. So there was this whole point where people said, "Oh, Kannada medium, they will not be able to manage," and things like that. But 3 months later, they were
Mm,
beating every single
Yeah,
English medium student because they
yeah.
put in the work, they put in
correct.
the
Mm,
effort,
Mm,
and then they were just ensured that things would
mm.
go on. I think
It's
Vidya may have lost power at her connection.
mm,
So when she comes in fact, this I think I discussed briefly, saying that we'll just continue, and
yeah.
then the whole thing will. Okay. So, what has given you the greatest pleasure as a teacher?
Tough. Yeah. For me, when I see their eyes light up,
Yeah.
when you tell them this story or you talk about the names of dinosaurs or you
Yeah.
tell them, they wait, especially during storytelling time or when they're recounting incidents, and I see that light in their eyes go off,
Yeah.
right? That gives
Right.
me the greatest pleasure. It's like, oh,
Right.
that twinkle, that light, may it never dim. So that has been the greatest pleasure for me.
Okay. So at that point, I'm saying you, it's one of those things which really, the fact that learning is happening is
Yeah,
so transparent at that age.
Correct.
yeah,
They
yeah,
learn to mask it as they grow older. Oh yeah, I know this, as if but little children, like you said, they're very very they're transparent, and you see it when
yeah,
they're amazed, when they're
yeah.
angry they're angry, they're hungry they're hungry, so there's no difference. So wonderful. But Shobana, when it comes to those who never let up, how do you, what has been your experience as a teacher? What are the happiest moments that you recall?
The happiest moments for this is one batch of mine graduated around 10 years ago.
Okay.
They That is one of the oldest batch, I think. So they keep in touch with me. They tell me where they're working, and we all had a
Right.
conference call together. They're working all over the world, and two of them have even invited me for their wedding.
Right.
I mean, it's so personal, but it's such a lovely gesture for them to remember and
Right.
invite me. I'm so grateful to. I mean, it is not only between us. I'm sure the parents also play a big role in this.
Right.
Their upbringing is so
Right.
important for them to remember their teacher, and that's very important. And like how Bhuvana says, I do see that light bulb moment, which they call, in my classroom.
Right.
I mean, it is. I mean, out of 30 kids, even if one or two see your job is done, I mean,
Right.
it's a highlight of your day, right?
Right.
Even I see those light, but aha, that moment, that's so beautiful
Yeah.
to watch when someone gets it. It might not be because of you, but it happened in
Yeah.
front of you. It's
Yeah.
very
That is
humbling
a,
and
that I
lovely.
think only teachers really get to experience that. So Vidya, you
Correct.
must have got what I'm talking about, which is what has been your happiest moment as a teacher. What are some of the
Um,
things that you
it's
remember?
like every time when I see the spark that yeah, I got this, I got
Yeah.
what you're telling. So that is the moment which are making our day, not only for me, for every teacher. That is
Yeah.
that moment. Actually, it means a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's go to the other part, which is what are the parts about teaching that you don't like? Do you like correcting answer sheets?
Okay.
So I think I won't. It wouldn't, because we don't have any answer sheet
Yeah.
in our Montessori system. There's no
Right.
correction per se. It's
Right.
working with materials and all. So I think I can safely exclude myself from this question and think
From
Shobana
this
and Vidya
particular
can.
question. Okay. Yeah, Shobna. So, what are the things which become a core over time, a chore over time?
I like correcting because I'm able to evaluate. I'm able to see how much has been understood.
Okay.
Correction is okay. I don't like giving marks and saying you've not done well, you've done well.
Okay.
That really puts me in a spot. I don't like the other admin chores like filling in the mark register, writing lesson plans, and non-child involvement. I'm not a big fan of that, but otherwise, everything else is good.
Okay. And Vidya, what is it you don't like?
Actually, I like correcting. I enjoy writing lesson plans.
Okay.
Those are not the problems. But what problem is, as government school is facing a downtrend in enrollment. Actually,
Okay.
if you see my class, I have only 14 children.
Oh
If in any day some about 4 to 5 children will go absent, that
my God.
I don't like at all. All my intrinsic motivation will be pulled down while taking the attendance. To see 4 or 5 children go absent, absolutely I'll be left with zero motivation to start the class. That is the thing which I hate the most.
Yeah. No, that's sad. It's come down to 14 because that's what urban children are aiming to get classes down to 14. And here there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
natural, it's like, okay, you've got the ideal class. So maybe you can make stars out of those 10 children who attend. Maybe that will be the
That is
biggest
what we
thing
are
that.
doing. We have no
Yeah,
other
that's it.
way.
Literally. I know. I'm saying it's amazing how much more uh, teachers have to do when they're faced with a situation like this. Okay. Now, okay. So let's move on to something else, which is, how do you think things have changed, Bhuvna, after the net has come in? One, of course, is the way parents have become so deeply involved. But what are the other changes you notice in children?
I think every batch that comes in
Yeah.
are much more intelligent than the previous.
Okay.
They are so aware, right? And the knowledge this 2.5, 3.5 year old has is absolutely amazing, because the
Okay.
world has become such a smaller place with the advent of internet. So you can see,
Yeah.
the positive aspect of parents getting involved is they get the knowledge. They don't have to read an encyclopedia book, retain it in
Right.
their memory. Google is
Right.
there. In 2 minutes I will Google, I will let you know. So they are
Right.
able to give facts, they are able to talk to their children. Children are very, very aware. And as
Yeah.
I said, every batch that comes in, they are brilliant. So I think there is also the plus side to this age of information, where
Right.
they are getting it from different sources. So it's not restricted only to an encyclopedia or to a storybook. They can get it through the internet. Their parents are more well informed.
Yeah.
They've got their facts straight, so that their parents
Right.
don't have to make up stuff for, I'll get back to you later kinds of things.
Right.
Everything is ready. So I
Right.
think very aware,
That way,
very,
it's a good thing.
very
Yeah.
aware. So I
Okay.
that is the flip side to the
Flip
advent
side
of
of.
the
Okay.
internet and the
Okay.
information world.
What are the changes you have noticed, Shobna?
Um, I've not noticed. I mean, they don't use like for now any question. Now you can just take a picture and find solutions. None of my
Right.
students take any of those efforts. Out of 30, one or two of them, one kid or two children will take that effort and do. I somehow feel the same. If you have so much of interest, you would have done it with books in a library also. I don't think this Googling has made any, because they ask me, I say, okay, I'll get back to you. If I don't know something, I'll say, get back to you. They could have said, no, ma'am, I'll Google. Nobody ever says that. They very patiently wait for me to come the next day and then
Okay.
clarify. I mean, you have
Okay.
so many apps and so many websites which do just this
Right.
job, a step by step solution. They will not take any of those efforts.
Yeah,
I
they
think
still
those who,
want that.
yeah, they are fine.
Yeah.
But internet is a big deal for teachers. For me, I'm able to draw graphs in a second and show it to them as
Right.
part of my math curriculum. I couldn't have drawn so many of them and so quickly just
Right.
with
Right.
using a chalk and board.
No, the human connection, I don't think will ever, it'll
Yes,
never, the
yes,
factor in that is never going to go down.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Vidya? What have you noticed apart from the drop in enrollment? What are the other things you've noticed about the children themselves? How have they changed? Connections, internet connections are better, or what are the other changes you've seen?
Actually, in my school, it's in a rural area. Here, I can barely show a video. It will always
Okay.
go round and round, buffering.
Oh, it's buffering all
So
the time. Okay.
yes, yes, all the time. And I cannot use the ICT materials for very frequently because of this network issues. So I
Okay.
used to share the links through the WhatsApp. We actually have a
Okay.
class WhatsApp groups. I used to share, and in the home they will see sometimes, or sometimes they won't get the mobile because in one family there will be 4 or 5 school going kids and one smartphone.
Okay.
So on every day they couldn't get that accessibility to the smartphones. And the major one, another thing I notice is the smartphones are actually distracting the kids
Right.
without adult supervision, because the parents are so much busy with their jobs. So they will not be around the children when they use the smartphone. So children are not monitored about what they have to look, what they are looking. There is no one to monitor. So it's actually distracting the kids as far as the rural
Right.
schools are concerned. So I don't welcome this completely.
No, you make a very interesting and it's a very hard to answer point. On one hand, it is information. On the other hand, it's indulgence. So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you draw that line? How do you keep that perfect, gap between and behavior? One of the problems is we think that technology is enabling, but it's actually distancing people because the more independent you are, the less you rely on someone else and the less there is room for being together. It's almost as if they retreat into their rooms. What you're talking of is maybe children, because they're forced to be together, they'll cultivate those relationships. Which brings me to another. I don't know how I've felt this, but I'm not sure. There is this emphasis on making everything easy. If you don't understand something, you should find an easy way around it. You should find easy ways to solve problems. Why is it the value of work being devalued? What's your take on it? Or do you think that I'm not in touch with things at all? Anyone? I mean, Bona, if you feel, please go ahead. Or what
Um,
is
Thankfully, so I can talk only from the Montessori point of view and this age
right,
group.
right,
So they have that environment is specially prepared for them, and you
right,
can't have any easy way out is not there. I work with the exercise of practical life. I work with, and we call it work. It's not playway
okay,
method. It's not children
okay,
are not playing. So it is
okay,
work. So there is
okay,
a particular way in which they have to work, and learning, I believe, happens in a very scientific manner. And all Montessori materials are didactic material. That means they have a direct and indirect aim. So here
okay,
there is nothing because we are facilitators. We just teach them how this has to be used, how does the material has to be used, and how do they benefit from using this. So how the gross motor skills, the fine motor skills. So there is nothing like there's something called washing of chowki, washing of hands, washing of small clothes, things that they do to look after themselves, look after the
right,
environment around them. So there's
right,
nothing making it easy for them. It is a
okay,
system and they follow it. And we believe in cultivation of inner discipline rather
okay.
than constantly being saying, keep quiet. The materials and the way the class is set
Should engage
cultivates
them.
that. And there's something called healthy noise that happens. So there is no shortcut or something happening there in a Montessori environment. This is the task and you finish the task. So we
Okay.
don't make anything easy because we believe in saying the child says help me help myself. So we
Hmm.
have this conversation with parents saying do not carry your child's lunch bag. What the child can do, let the child do. Let the
Right,
child wear his or her own shoes. So get them
right,
shoes that they can slip on and slip off themselves. Don't get them complicated stuff. Give them
right,
lunch boxes, not Tupperware ones, which they cannot open. What they
right,
can do because they need that movement with their hands.
right.
So we never believed in giving simple stuff because the methodology is not like that.
Yeah.
Help me help
Okay.
myself. What the child can do, let the child do. Because if you don't allow the child to be independent at this stage, anyway, as teenagers, they're not going to listen to you. So it's even going to be worse because you've not established any sense of order for the child. You do everything
Okay.
because it's that
Right.
age where they seem to take more time, but then later you
Yeah.
complain that my child does nothing. So so there is
Yeah.
no
No, I
easy
think.
way out, as in the
Yeah.
system it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
happen.
It doesn't happen that way. Shobana, what's your take on it?
uh, when you say easy, it might be subjective.
Right.
But whenever you break down any problem, there is one small amount it can be broken in small parts that can be broken into. They can't be broken down further. So
Right.
there is somewhere you have to stop. There is one level of difficulty or whatever it is. So beyond
Right.
that, you can't do anything much about it. But I've observed one thing: what is easy for someone is tough. It is
Yeah.
tough for somebody else. It need not be one particular concept in say algebra. Like there was one student in class 10. He was struggling with arithmetic and algebra, but he was amazing in geometry. He
Okay.
was something what Howard Gardner would call a spatial learner. He could understand, see things in space. a rectangle, a square, its area, perimeter. You're so comfortable with them. And he did a lot of peer tutoring. So this is one thing I encourage a lot of students to. They talk in their language. The language they talk with
Ah,
one is so different from when adult talks to them. So
Right.
it's easy for them to
Right.
understand how they go about doing stuff. So peer tutoring helps. This is what I did. They say, okay, fine. This is much more easier. So
Okay. Great. No, I think that eliminates a lot of. I was just looking at it from a. Vidya, what's your take on it? Do you think that children are prepared to put in the effort, or they want things made easy for them?
No, actually, they want to learn by themselves. That is what I,
Right.
in this much long
Observation.
career, I have understood that students don't like telling them things. They want to
Okay.
do and learn by themselves. If you
Right.
tell things, they may keep quiet. They may seem to accept it, but actually they are not. They want to
Okay.
try everything by themselves, and they want to check it out whether it is right or wrong. Actually, I have a son who is
Huh.
8 years old. He is in fourth standard, sorry, third
Right.
standard, and I'm also teaching third standard in my school.
Okay.
Some he will not ask some questions at the school. He will just keep quiet and come home, and he will interrogate me. Why is this like that? I
Okay.
want to try this. If I tell the stomata help the plants to breathe, and he wants some concrete evidence, which he will not
Okay.
ask his teacher, but he will come home and ask me. So
Interrogate
students
you.
are, yeah, definitely. I used to
Okay.
do all the experiments, and I used to demonstrate him actually in home. So I used to think that okay, my children will also think like that. While I was teaching the same concept in my class, all the students kept mum, but actually this is what might be going on in their heads. So children actually they make it quiet, but they love to experiment and learn by themselves. They need some concrete evidence to all the things which are being taught in the class. That is
Okay.
my
Okay.
observation.
can
Great.
I add something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Please.
Yeah. This is regarding what Vidya was saying. But in the schools I've been working with this teenage children, I think if we create an environment where it's okay to ask anything, but of course there's a
yeah.
huge age difference compared to Vidya's group. Like a lot of students ask me a lot of things.
Hmm.
I'm sure they have nothing to go back home and think about or anything. They ask me a lot of things on the subject, and they're pretty open. It's okay to ask. So I think somewhere down the line we have to make the environment very conducive, where it's okay to ask anything and nothing is silly or very simple. It is important to you, and that's what I say. I tell all my children this same doubt many of them have, but they don't have the courage to get up and ask. You have that courage. So because you've asked this, this doubt has been clarified in so many minds. So I think setting the environment is very important. That it's okay to ask relevant questions.
It's wonderful to hear you say that, because that's exactly what, if you manage to bring out children or inculcate that whole point of wanting to learn even after they're out of school, rather than to get a degree or to get marks and then get admission to something, then you've created something which is marvelous. I'm saying curiosity is something that drove me right from the beginning, and I still think it's the most important quality I have. It's not anything else. If there's something I don't know, I'd like to go after it and figure things out. And you won't know to begin with. Like you said, we all pass through that fog of uncertainty or not knowing something, and then, in fact, there is one comment from a person who's watching. I just like to put it on. Yeah. So she said, so obviously you have engaged the the people who are watching, which is wonderful. Okay, so now let's come to the point where Bhuvana started off, which is how involved should parents be? Should it be? Today it's almost got to the point where in the urban setting you set everything from play dates to the number of things. Are we overdoing it, or should it be, you know, regulated?
Venu, how do you regulate it?
You can't, not
You
to
can't.
a
I mean,
beyond a certain
it's
point. Yeah.
individually for the parent to at a particular stage realize that
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, enough is enough. What am I doing to my child?
Yeah.
And you can't judge the parents also, because they are also under so much of peer pressure. I mean, if uh, in an urban setting, if 25 of them are going in one direction, you need guts to take your child and go in the other direction. So,
Yeah.
how do you regulate? What can you do? I think it depends from setting to setting.
Yeah.
And parenting doesn't come with any kind of degree or coaching or nothing. You are just thrown in. You sink or swim. That's your problem.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an easy task for parents at all, and especially this generation. So
Yeah.
who are we to say what can be regulated, what are they overdoing, what are they not? Because I cannot even understand what these parents are going through now. And that's what I'm saying. I'm very glad I'm not part of this. They have
Yeah.
their own set of, so I wouldn't dare judge them or say this is too much or regulate this. My only thing which I would request parents, especially for parents of very young children, are your children happy?
Yeah.
Is there a twinkle in their eyes?
Right.
Wherever you're taking them, whatever you're doing, because children are intrinsically very happy human beings. It
Right.
comes from inside, right?
Right.
But what happens, we unknowingly, in the name of parenthood, can create sometimes situations where their eyes dim, where that wonder is lost, that curiosity is lost, because you're so set on being a good parent and having good, well brought up children. So then in that cycle, just observe your child. And I am talking only for my age group here. I am talking for 2.5 to 6 year olds, because I don't have the bandwidth for older children and what the parenting. But what I'm talking about these babies is,
Right.
are they happy? Don't
Yeah.
let their happiness, it is not about ABCD, 1, 2, 3, addition, subtraction, multiplication. No. Can
Nothing.
they look at everything with curiosity,
Yeah.
as you said? Can
Wonderful.
you provide an emotionally secure
Emotionally so.
environment
Yeah.
which encourages lifelong learning? It is
Right.
not about learning the abacus. No.
Yeah.
It is not
Absolutely.
about just cognitive learning. And how are you behaving in front? You are their first role model. You are on camera 24 by 7. They learn from you
From you.
first.
Yeah.
You come to school and say it is your responsibility. They are in school the maximum number of hours. Your responsibility to teach them manners. Your responsibility to teach them so and so. No,
Yeah.
no, no. So as
Absolutely.
parents, just see that the wonder and the twinkle in their eyes does not dim, and they are happy. I think that with that you can regulate, and we are not here to
Right.
tell
Yeah.
you as teachers that
How you
you
should. Yeah.
need to regulate this, don't over. No, 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 no. We are not here. No, no, no.
Okay.
I think this generation, we've crossed the stage. We want to give any advice. We don't like being given advice. We don't give advice. So that is gone.
Okay.
So it's like
Okay.
your child expression, emotions, everything will
Everything is.
reflect
Yeah.
whether you're parenting, you're on the right track or not.
Right. Okay. So a couple of comments which have come up. I think you can see it. So, Shobana, while that is the saying, what is your experience of how uh, you know uh, parents should manage, and what is your point of view on that?
I have a different point of view because the children are older now and they are
Okay.
preparing for a career ahead. So all of us have to be in sync together. When I say all of us, it's a community of the school, the child, and the guardian slash parents at home. So I would rather keep, or I always keep the parents in touch of any deflection of whatever's happening in school. Something is not online, I immediately let them know because they should know what's happening. Because
Right.
even though they're with us 8 hours, I think a parent is the only one, a parent or a guardian, will have a good idea of what the child wants and what the child is intrinsically. Maybe the child is different at school. So
Right.
that choice of career or what their attitude of their children, that's a parent's choice. They have a very good idea. And yeah, so most of the time I ensure that a parent is aware of what's happening in school with regards to the child. So all of us are on the same page most of the time. So nothing is not out of the blue or anything like that. And
Right.
yeah, I think and I'm very grateful. Till now I've had amazing set of parents. It's not it's just because of the fact that the children are so grateful, you know, they're so
Right.
respectful. This cannot be only on the child's part, right? It has to be from your family.
Right.
They've ensured, yeah, they're bringing up
Yeah.
good lovely kids, and parents are doing a great job.
Wonderful. So, Vidya, what is your take on parental
Um,
involvement?
Actually, in the rural schools, what Bona ma'am was telling, that is what
Yeah.
happening in the reality. Here, all the parents are leaving their children to be happy first. There is
Yeah.
no compulsion, there is no pressure. This is what you have to do. This is what. There is nothing from the parents' side. I have never seen anything like that. They are not at all putting pressure to the children. Actually, we used to call the parents and tell, at least check, ask the children whether you have completed your homework today. Please ask the children. We used to, we
Yeah.
will be
To
calling the
ensure
parents and telling, yeah, definitely. But their response would be a simple smile. That's all. They have never asked whether the children are good at studies and all. But they love the children to the core. The children are very happy. They are given responsibilities of taking care of the pets or taking care of the younger siblings in their homes. So generally in our school the children will throw the bag if they go home and they will collect again and come to school the
the
next day.
next day.
That is what
Yeah.
that is what is happening.
Yeah.
So we are also won't stress much on them because um, it is it is enough for them what they study at school. That is enough. So
They manage
we
from there.
also don't
Okay.
put so much of pressure on them to
Pressure to.
complete these,
Right.
to write imposition 10 times.
Right.
We never used to do such things.
Okay.
They will not do that. We know
Right.
that. So
Okay.
usually we don't give any much of homeworks and we don't expect these should be completed at home and you have to come the next day. So like
Yeah. With the
such
work.
things are
Okay.
not happening with rural schools.
Okay.
They are very happy.
Great. Okay. So, one other major point. Do you think that the fear of failure among parents is much higher today? Because I think one of the things you said, Bhuvana, is that peer group pressure. So, children being allowed to fail. I think I briefly discussed this, saying that earlier, if a child failed in a class and then moved further down, it wasn't such a big deal. But now it's almost as if the fear of failure and the fear and the ability to learn, I think, are so closely interlinked. And somehow we are making this all about success. What is your take on this?
Venu, now I think it's very, very important for children to understand it's okay if you don't, achieve this. Because then later in life, as they grow older, if you cannot accept failure, it breaks them. It completely
Yes.
shatters their emotional well-being. So as Shobana
Right.
so beautifully says, I don't believe in this marking, giving marks, giving
Mm.
grades. So it's okay. I mean, where are you at? If it's compulsory, if it's like high school, if it's like, 8th, 9th, 10th board marks, 12th board marks. But I think somewhere first, the parent has to accept it's okay for my child. It's okay if he comes last in a race, also in a lemon race or a running race,
Doesn't
because he
matter. Yeah.
participated. Now, when
Right.
that acceptance is there, it will translate to the child. So, when that sense of competition, if parents now could just remove from their thing, and then it's okay. You participated, you were involved. So it's just
Yeah.
a very small shift in the way of thinking. if we could think like this, because everything doesn't depend on you being at the top all the time. Life is
Yeah.
not like that. We call it a circle. There are ups, there are
Yeah.
downs, then you come
Yeah.
back again. So how do I accept my downs along
Yeah.
with how I go? So if you bring up children who say, I cannot accept failure at all, I mean, what are we setting them up for? So
Very true.
children are learn from us. So as we as parents, if we can slowly shift the way we think, right, and the way we talk to our children, I'm sure we can bring about a lot of change. But I think it's very, very important for us adults to accept that it's okay. I mean, even
Yeah.
in my area, even in my field, it's okay. If I've not done this
Yeah.
job very well, it's absolutely all right. I put in the effort and I learn from this mistake, and I don't be stupid enough to make it again. Right? I mean, if we can think that way,
Yeah.
I think our children would also benefit from that.
Great. So, Shobana, what is your take?
I think these days, when you ask what are they planning to do, what are they planning to do, the graduation of, I've heard varied answers other than the typical engineer and doctor. Many of them want to do, actually, some of the students have pursued and they are visual communication, a fashion designer, a sports manager. I've never heard any of these occupations before. But the thing is, now they're aware of such occupations, and when they're talking about it, it means it's also okay at home to talk about them and pursue
Yeah.
them. So I think it's a huge shift. Again, this is happening in urban English speaking schools. I don't know
Yeah.
how it works in
In rural
Yeah.
schools.
yeah, in other
True.
places.
True. So, Vidya, what is your take on, you know, uh,
Actually, government policy is still eighth standard. Your pass.
yeah.
Whatever the marks you get, whether you come to school regularly or not, whatever may be the case, you are pass till eighth standard. So the failure is not shown to them yet till they come
Okay.
to eighth standard. So even though that is the case, actually we teachers constantly insist them to do their best. Whatever job is assigned to them, whatever work is assigned to them, you do with utmost sincerity. This is not. If you don't do, you will not be failed. But
Right.
even though this is the work which is allotted to you, and you be sincere, you do your best. So that is what we insist among the children. And until primary, there is no much. The children are not so much hurt if they failed. That is their intrinsic thing in the rural areas. If
Right.
we used to compete in inter school competition, sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail, but both the things are not affecting them. That is what I have observed among the
Okay.
rural children. That is a very special quality, and I often pray to God, let the children be like this till the
Yeah.
end.
Let them retain that
This is a very special and very very tough quality, to
quality.
develop.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
both the things they enjoy. If they succeed, they
Right.
are smiling. If they lost also, they will smile.
This is
So
fail.
that is a very special thing. Children are like that, and we are imposing them that you have failed. You are not supposed to
Right.
smile now. So all these things we are imposing on them, but naturally, nothing is affecting the children.
Nothing is affecting them. Yeah, that's true. Wonderful. We've spent a whole hour talking about this. We've not really spoken about how you see teaching as a career. So, why don't we close with something where, let's say, people who want to become teachers, you know, what is it that they should be looking at, and what are the expectations they should have? What are the realistic expectations they should have from each of you? I mean, each of you can tell me what your perspective is.
Okay, as usual, it starts with me. So, when
Yeah.
you want to teach very young children, come with a very, very open mind, and look at yourself more as a facilitator, whether you are in a Montessori setup or you're a kindergarten or any other Cambridge or IGCSE. Look at yourself more as a facilitator to encourage learning happening rather than you imparting something. Two, don't expect to be paid too much unless it's a school that really believes in following this pay commission or that pay commission. So generally for pre-primary especially, they don't start with a very good pay as such. And somewhere you need to understand, when I'm talking about a twinkle in the child's eyes, the you have to be in awe of this child. You
Yeah.
have to be in awe of creation for creating these. So it is not something to say that I am going to teach, they are empty vessels, I am going to put knowledge inside. But if you
Yeah.
can look at them in wonder and in awe and laugh along with them,
Right.
that shows your involvement with this particular age group. You're set to be a early years educator. And trust me, they are so forgiving, so non-judgmental. Today you'll make them sit in a corner, tomorrow morning they'll come and hug you, because it's just that's the way this
Yeah.
age group is.
Right.
And
Is
if you can just provide them with that emotional security, that safe environment for learning, you are most suitable to enter into teaching for these young children.
Thank you, Bhuvana. Wonderful. So I'll just keep showing some of the, lots of people have things to say, but we'll come to that. Uh, I'll just show you some of the others. So I think some of these come from, how people are feel about this whole thing. So, okay. So, Shobna, why don't you tell me what is, you're talking of, let's say, teaching the higher classes. So, what do you think in terms of a career people should expect, and what should they prepare themselves for?
Um, uh, I agree with what Bhuvana said. I know I would not call myself a teacher. You can be a facilitator. You can give the right environment. You can give the right teaching aids and ensure some learning happens. Uh, so you can be a facilitator. You should be a facilitator. Make sure the environment is conducive for a child to learn. And if there's one more thing, many of the adults or teachers feel for the senior secondary schools, most of the kids are, many students are taller than me. So, but even then, at the end of the day, they're still children.
Yeah.
I mean, I give them a stamper. They're so happy. You are a 15 or a
Yeah.
17-year-old. They're still such kids at heart.
Right.
And just like Bhuvana's toddlers, I mean, everything is whatever discussion or misunderstanding happens, forgotten. Next day is a new way to start. So, if you want to
Right.
be a teacher, there should be no issue of ego. I know
Yeah.
so much, you know so much. And in this age, everybody knows everything. If somewhere
Right.
they say you're wrong, you say, okay, I'll get back to you. And if you made a mistake, you should come back and accept, yes, I've made a mistake. Thank you for correcting me. So that is the way
Right.
to go. You should not get into logger and say, I'm the teacher. What do you know? That's a very bad idea.
Mm.
And this one more thing I see in classrooms around is a lot of raising of voices to get some sort of a discipline. Again, a very bad idea. Just by being quiet and counting up to five, you can ask them to calm down. And you can work your lesson plan around, have activities where there is not so much of noise. And in any math class, there is going to be some amount of noise because it's going to be discussion among teachers, peers. So that's perfectly okay. So yeah, I think, and there's one more important thing for any subject teachers: you have to constantly upskill yourself. It's not that
Yes.
I've got an MA, I've got an MSc, I've got a PhD, I'm done. No, please upskill, and there's so many platforms offering. I'm sure most of the schools are more than happy to sponsor for these courses. When you upskill, maybe it's the same knowledge, but the way it's delivered
Yeah.
by professors outside of your country, it's so different. It'll give you ideas on how to present the same thing. And the last thing I would like to say for any for math teacher, for example, you should show the child the bigger picture. I'm starting somewhere. Where am I going to? You should show them the path. This
Right.
is the reason we are doing A, B, and C to come to D. You can't
Right.
just say, you can't say I'm doing an A. Okay, we'll come there. No, show them the path. Why are
Okay.
you doing this? When you're gonna arrive there finally? It should make a lot of sense to them. And most of the time, again, my previous principal told me you have to be very honest, share whatever is relevant with them. So if I'm going to be on leave, I tell them I'm going to be on leave. And
Right.
more importantly, I share my lesson plan and my scheme of work. So they know so much of work has to be done in this period of time. We can't just fool around. There's a job at hand. There's a final exam coming up. So all of this has to be done. You have to give them. You have to share all these responsibilities with them, or what is expected of them. If there's that sort of a clarity, I think all of us will be on the same page.
Wonderful. Vidya, what do you have? I'll just keep showing some of the things that came up.
Um, I want to tell two things. Number one is if you aspire to become a teacher, be a teacher who is democratic and not a dominating teacher. Like
Right.
if any children is free to say, "Ma'am, 1 minute I didn't get it yet," that is the best classroom democracy that I believe in that. And be a teacher like who
Yeah.
is giving the complete freedom to the children. We teach only for them, and we have to wait till the last child is getting the point. That is
Right.
one advice. And second one is never ever think you have mastered teaching. No one can do that. Every child is
Yeah.
unique, and there will be at least one kid inside the class who constantly tells you that you are a failure. Every year I'm seeing such children. uh, you are failing me to you are failing me to make me learn, you're failing to make me learn. Some children will
Okay.
always be there to remind you. So
Put you
in
back
my
on
college,
solid ground. Yes.
yeah, in my institute they will be displaying a poster that is, if
Yeah.
I can't learn the way you teach me in the way in which I can learn.
I can
So
learn. Right.
yes, every time my institute used to tell this quote. So always keep that in mind. If you cannot make a children to learn, understand him better and help him better to learn. That's it. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, Venu, we're not able to hear you. No.
Venu, we've lost audio. We can't hear you.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it better?
yeah.
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 You can hear me now. Okay. So
Yes.
I'll just repeat what I said earlier, which is thank you for taking the time. Uh, I'm glad. I'm sure I would have been happy to have any one of you as my teachers when I started off, because this has been such a wonderful session in terms of understanding what teaching is really about. And that is the core part of. Thank you for taking the time and being so patient, articulate, uh, understanding. And it was wonderful having you on the show. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much
you
Thank you.
for
for the
time.
having
Thank you.
me.
invitation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
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 Yeah. So that was our special episode on teachers and teaching. I hope you had a great time. Next time, we'll be back with another show and another podcast next week.